So that was a tribute to the late Pat Smullen, and may he rest in peace. A remarkable legacy that he's left both on and off the track. Pat Smullen was remembered, Joe Troy, here in Boardnamona O'Connor Park on Saturday evening ahead of that game between Rhode and Edenderry. Very emotional scenes before the match. Rhode took a long time to get going properly in that game. Edenderry, from watching bits and pieces, I saw the second half and I saw extra time. Edenderry maybe might feel they left the game behind them.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, I was joined by John Motton, the Offaly manager, and, like, first credit to John Motton, the interest he has in the job, because he drove from Castlebar Friday, drove back Friday night, drove up here Saturday. He got in senior B games, he got in intermediate games, he got in all the football action, drove back Saturday night and up again Sunday. So he's really putting in the hours and time. But he would have said quite openly in the commentary, both on Midlands 103 and also the Offaly GATV, that he said, look, Rhode are huge favourites here. He said anything other than a Rhode win would be a huge shock. While he said that Edenderry are a young, exciting team, Rhode had to dig deep. And it's not one of those victories where you knew down the home straight Rhode were going to just kick on and coast 3, 4, 5 points clear as they've done so often in the past. Edenderry, I thought they had stolen it at the death. They had a dearth of wides in the first half, maybe 5 or 6. Probably just not settling into the game, maybe kicking kind of spectacular efforts at goal that weren't going over. And then Keane Farrell got a grip on the game. Rhode were getting easier scores. They kicked in some brilliant diagonal ball, isolated Niall Mack inside, hand up, called the mark straight away. And it was the experience of Rhode telling early in the game, but Edenderry started to come back. They were attacking at will. We did say the first goal would probably win the game. Now, that didn't come till deep in extra time, but just when Edenderry got a score up here through Keane Farrell, John Mahan looked at me and kind of more or less said, Edenderry have it. Rhode had a chance, a free 45 metres out into the 4th minute of additional time, and Niall Darby just uncharacteristically just barely grazed the post and went wide. Thought that was it. Jordan Hayes had a fantastic catch here for Edenderry, and with that we thought the final whistle was blown, but the referee had a lot of the time. Ball was turned over. Rhode had one more chances. Conor McNamee got it in as far as Rory McNamee, and falling on his back under pressure, kicked the ball. It seemed to hang in the air for about 10 seconds and eventually dropped over the crossbar, and with that went the final whistle. The telling point is probably Alan McNamee's introduction. You know, the record holder, as we said, for the Offaly Senior Football Championship wins. He steadied the ship. He put in some tackles around the field. He was a calming influence, and he played a superb ball into Niall. I'd say only Niall was expecting the quality of the ball that was coming in. Look, they're doing it all their lives together, literally. And once Niall got inside that 14, the ball was only going into one spot, and it nestled in the back of the net. And with that, it broke Edenderry hearts. But like Brian, look, he's watching a lot of football. The Offaly Senior Football Championship has been incredibly competitive, and like I know Brian's own club, we'll probably touch on it in a minute, went down last night. Bracknell have showed that they've adapted to this game really well. They could have taken Edenderry here. They probably should have taken Shamrocks in the first round. And you're talking about a team in a relegation final, could easily be in a semi-final, Brian, next year.
Yeah, I'd have to say, like, when you have a team dominant in the group, like probably Rhode were in our group, the other 3 teams, then it's a titanic struggle. And, you know, Cap and Cur beat Tullamore in round 1, then we beat Cap and Cur, and going into round 2, we were probably the 2 points ahead on average. But Tullamore, we didn't take our scores against Tullamore early, and we pushed up then and tried to catch Tullamore, and then the scoring average went again us. Rhode banged in a few goals again, Cap and Cur late, and that put Cap and Cur, who were probably the unlucky team in that group, not to qualify for a semi-final. And you can see the difference it made. Tullamore qualified, and they turned over the county champions at the weekend.
I'll tell you what, it was a nightmare for me on Midlands 103 at the time, because I had a table which I had written out, and I had a scrap piece of paper beside it, and at different times before Rhode started to pull away a little bit in that game against Cap and Cur, there was only 2 and 3 points in the point difference either side on it. And I was thinking, if Clara slightly come back into this, next thing we have to change everything around again. But Tullamore just about come through. We'll talk about Tullamore maybe in more great detail in a moment. But Brian, that's Rhode now going for a 30th title. They're into 9 consecutive finals. Okay, they've had to maybe come through a hard game and win a little bit ugly. But there's something about Rhode. And I thought when Rory McNamee was taking that shot, even when he was falling backwards, I just got a feeling they were going to get a chance to equalise.
Yeah, Rhode are just phenomenal in fairness, because they just keep going to the well every year, and they keep getting results. And like for them last year, they were going into the final, had a good few injuries, and it did cost them, and Ferbane took full advantage. And even without missing a few players last year, they led Ferbane by 5 points at one stage until Keane Johnson got that goal and Ferbane took over. And, you know, Rhode were very, sort of angry over last year, and probably to a certain point maybe correct, but they were gunning for Ferbane this year, I think. And they'll be a little bit worried now about Tullamore, and we'll touch on that final now in a few minutes. But Rhode are just keep going to the well and they keep producing the goods. And look, you'd have to admire them. While every team is out there trying to be Rhode and aspire to be Rhode, they have to be admired the way they keep coming back year after year and the condition they're in. And I suppose on a plus side, and not just the having the jewels that a lot of clubs have. They just concentrate on football. Tullamore, Clara, Shamrocks, Ferbane all have the jewels, and it is catching players now, whether we like it or not in this stage. You take Ferbane, Belmont, take ourselves, take Shamrocks, Tullamore, all in semi-finals or even going late in their championship, and it does take a toll on the jewel player. But Rhode and Tullamore will be a fascinating final in 2 weeks' time.
Joe, as I mentioned, you were here watching the game, commentating on it. And we look at Edenderry maybe feeling that they've left one a little bit behind here. But also in terms of Edenderry, a lot of promise, because even you look at the way Cian Farrell has performed, you've done a couple of their games this year for Offaly GATV. He is just an absolutely outstanding talent.
Oh, he was wonderful, and I could see John Maughan kind of just grinning, beside me, because he knows the talent that's there in Offaly football coming through from the underage structures. Like, he had a nasty injury after the Sigurdsson campaign last year. It probably thwarted him a bit, but maybe it gave him a chance to maybe physically develop a bit more, to maybe think about the game and not just be parachuted straight into it, because players can struggle going straight into a senior inter-county setup. But the two Keens, to be mentioned so often, to have those over the next 10 to 12 years in Offaly is going to be an exciting time, because he put his mark all over that game. I'd say he was devastated, because he literally led his team from the front. He caught spectacular ball, and it's not that Edenderry are coming to the end of their career like, say, a lot of the Rhode players are, that they know they might have left it behind, but they're going to have plenty more chances, like Ferbane. And I suppose the one thing I'd ask Brian, like we say, with your county board hat on, it's a dream scenario the way the championships are running, because one time when we had maybe 12 teams in the senior football and senior hurling, there was a lot of lopsided fixtures. And I think right from, you can nearly say, the intermediate creed in both codes up, there's a huge amount of competition there. The senior football, it'll be Rhode and Ferbane, and everyone else will play catch up. Everyone realistically on the last day had a chance to qualify, and as we spoke about Bracknell, we spoke about Clara unfortunately going down, but it is a dream scenario for fixtures committee at the minute that the punters are getting such quality games. Yeah,
and the one pity, I suppose, with the quality of championship we have as in entertainment, is that the COVID has come and we haven't maybe bigger crowds, because there would be ferocious atmosphere at some of them games, and that's the only pity. But as we said, any team could have qualified on the last day. It went down to the wire. That's why I said, when Ferbane, who were going to top their group, and Rhode, it was really a dogfight then for second, and you were hoping then, if you weren't second, you were third, and the last thing you were hoping for was to be fourth, because semi-finals and relegation finals take on a whole new meaning in life. And we saw that at the weekend. Like, people would have nearly put their shirts on Rhode to beat Edenderry. It could have gone the other way, and a lot of people fancied Ferbane to beat Tullamore, and it went Tullamore's way, and a lot of people probably would have fancied Clara to beat Bracknell yesterday, and that didn't go that way either. So when there's pressure comes on teams, games take a new meaning in life. In the group stage, a little bit of leeway, but semi-finals, finals, anything can happen. And it's a great championship so far. And just final point maybe in Edenderry, both Lee Pearson and can't think of it, Rory Egan. They're two fine footballers coming. I saw them at Minor for Offaly. Offaly, and there was Jack O'Brien here for Dora the other day. Like, Offaly have a nice sprinkle of players coming, and I think John Maughan and his team will, in fairness to them, they're here looking at them all, and their panel will be strengthened in the coming year.
And even Will, you lad, we met up in the Bridge House Hotel doing the Player of the Year awards the year before last, and even though Tullamore had won the minor championship, the award had to go for O'Regan. He's shown so much promise, and for a youngster to go in at number 6 and be driving the team, like, he's physical, he's very strong, he's a willing runner. Like, he got a brilliant score here the first day against Shamrocks to win the game. He's getting goals from centre back, and I think there's quite look, we've been down in the county in hurling and football in terms of the negativity for a lot of years, but particularly with the footballers, I think there's a lot of top quality, exciting talent coming through.
Yeah, the Rolls Royce of a footballer. We'll hear now from one of the Rhode camp, Anton Sullivan, and I'm sure, given it was the online report headline, it's probably going to be the sub-headline on Kevin Corrigan's piece on the game from last Saturday when the Midland Tribune is published this coming Wednesday. It was Rhode getting out of jail, and I started when I spoke to Anton earlier about asking him whether there was a feeling in the Rhode camp that they indeed got out of jail against Edenderry.
We're into the 5th minute now of additional time. Here comes Rhode through Conor McNamee. Conor McNamee offloads to Rory McNamee. Shoots as he's falling. The ball hangs up in the air. Shane Cummins goes, watches it drop over the crossbar, and it's level once again.
Rhode coming through in the end by 1 goal and 14 points to 13 points against their rivals Edenderry. Anton, the report on the Midland Tribune this week is going to read that Rhode have used their get out of jail free card to get into your 9th final in a row now. Was that the feeling coming off the field that, maybe that was a undercooked performance from me in the semi-finals?
Definitely will, yeah. We were very lucky. Edenderry were extremely good, very, very good team, young team, to put us to the pin of the collar. And I suppose we were very lucky to get an equaliser in the dying seconds of normal time to bring it to extra time. I suppose maybe going into extra time, we felt we had a bit of fitness and experience, and Edenderry had thrown everything at us, and probably would have felt that they left it behind the normal time. So I suppose just based on that, with the experience in extra time, I felt that we could push on and get the win, and thankfully we did. But yeah, very lucky. If I was an Edenderry player now, I'd be very disappointed. I feel that we should be in the county final.
Rory McNamee, huge moment from, as you mentioned, that equaliser. He takes on the shot. I think it was ticking into the 4th minute of injury time. It was a do or die moment. The chance, pops up for him, and he takes it with both hands. A fantastic score from him to send that epic game into extra time.
Yeah, brilliant score by Rory, and thank God he scored it, because I was actually after missing one about 30 or 40 seconds earlier. So my head was on the line, I'd say. So no, thankfully he got the shot off. Great composure. Rory's a top player, so he always has that in his locker every day of the week. So thankfully he went over and he brought it to extra time.
I was watching extra time on Offaly GA TV, and you had the wind in the first half. So I assume from that point of view, you wanted to run up a little bit of a score. Niall McNamee gets a goal, which proves crucial in the end. But there was good scores from himself and from yourself just before that. Obviously, you went out and really targeted that first half of extra time. Yeah,
we did target it. We thought if we could get the scores on the board early, that the Edenderry heads might drop, they might feel that they've left it behind. But in fairness to Edenderry, they come out to win a point up in extra time, at the start of extra time. We got the goal really kind of against the run of play. It was kind of nip and tuck throughout the whole game. And then the goal came, and that gave us a bit of a cushion and a bit of security. And we kind of sat back a bit and got to grips with the game, and a bit of calm heads, I suppose, in the ball. And we got a few scores needed, and we pushed on, thank God.
I assume when it comes to semi-finals like this too, they take on a bit of life of their own, because so many of you would have went to school in Edenderry, you went to St. Mary's. These are neighbours of yours, these are friends of yours that you're going up against, and you're talking about a proper local rivalry here between Rhode and Edenderry.
Yeah, of course, and semi-finals are not easy one, Will. It's just about getting the job done and getting into the final. Growing up, we played against them lads, we played with them. We have a few drinks together. We go out together. We're a very close-knit group. So it's always hard to play in a local derby, because kind of form and everything goes out the window. It's just all on the day and who turns up the better team. But certainly Edenderry threw everything at us. They were a very good young team. They were well organised. They were very patient on the ball. I was certainly very impressed with them, because we had watched them leading up to the game, and they have some very, very decent footballers. But what impressed me about them was that they never panicked. As the game went on, they grew in confidence, and the composure on the ball was something that really struck me. They were very, very good. They held the ball at stages for 3 or 4 minutes, and we couldn't get it back off them. So certainly a big future ahead for a lot of them players in the red jersey.
And not to put any pressure on him, but he's in on the county panel with you currently in Keane Farrell. We saw how good he was at third level earlier this year with IT Carlow, being a key reason that they got to the Sigerson Cup final. He's come back from his injury. He seems really back into form. A fantastic goal he took against Brackney a couple of weeks ago too. He is going to be a big forward for the county in the future, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And I was watching him in the Sigerson campaign. He terrific Sigerson campaign with Carlow IT. He was unfortunate then to get an injury at just the wrong time. Coming into the league, and we really missed him in the league, because we'd some lads out injured as well, and Peter Cunningham was away and stuff, so we really did miss him. But yeah, he's a huge talent. I'd be marking James McPadden in training in Rhode some nights, and it's not easy, and at times he made it look easy, and that's not an easy thing to do. James is a top class marker, but even some of the scores he kicked one out near the stand side on his bad side, and it was a great score. I think that put him a point up in injury time, in normal time. So you know, he's a huge talent, and hopefully I'll get to play with him for another few years and years.
You got to see earlier today the penalties that were taken between Ferbane and Tullamore after, again, what proved to be a very dramatic second semi-final on Sunday evening at O'Connor Park. One thing that really struck me, Anton, I presume you'll have to probably practice penalties in Rhode between now and the final in 2 weeks' time, with the possibility of it finishing on the day, is that the quality of penalties from both Ferbane and Tullamore was remarkable.
Absolutely top class, Will. You wouldn't see it in the Premier League or even in a World Cup shootout. It was absolutely brilliant. Because there was huge pressure on every penalty taker taking the kicks. You know, it was kind of on their head if they didn't score. So, like, some of the composure was top class. You know, the keepers could do nothing about any of them, really, in fairness to them. It ended up Sean Flynn, I think, missed the last one. Did he, Will? I think it was him that missed the last one, kicked it over the bar, which is very unfortunate for Sean, you know, a very good young footballer. And it's not a nice way to go out for Ferbane, you know. Especially after training there the last 3 or 4 months and giving everything to go out in penalties is very unfair. But I suppose with the COVID and stuff, it had to finish on the day. So it is unfortunate for them, but no doubt they'll be back again next year. They're a good young team and they've loads of football in them yet.
Yeah, I suppose it's an unusual circumstance. Ferbane are knocked out of the championship without losing a game, if you consider last night's game as a draw. Tullamore get to the final having just won their last group game and having come through in penalties after a draw. But I guess that's the nature of knockout football, Anton. You know, a team is going to find their way through.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way, you know, as I said, semi-finals aren't an easy one, and form kind of goes out the window. It's a one-off game and you've nothing to lose, and teams will throw the kitchen sink at you, which you've seen Edenderry did to us on Saturday evening and nearly caught us. I suppose for Tullamore's point of view, they'd be delighted they're coming into form in the right time of the year. They obviously won't look back at the first 2 games because there's no relevance now, and just look forward to us and playing us in the final. And as I said, 2 weeks' time, it's a one-off game, and they've nothing to lose, and we've nothing to lose. So really looking forward to it.
And in terms of yourselves, in terms of coming back every single year, you hear this every year that Rhode are probably the favourites to win the competition, but they're not getting any younger. This is now 9 finals in a row, which is a remarkable achievement in and of itself. But if you look back at, you know, the likes of Alan McNamee, who has been around pretty much for the last 20 years as a senior footballer, the amount of finals that he's gone to since 2002, it is quite crazy how you're able to continue to get to finals year on year.
Yeah, it is. It's a great record, Will. But I suppose the lads are hungry. They want more, and it's a great way to be. I suppose the COVID coming kind of it was. I know it's not a good thing for the general public, but for us as a team, it gave us a chance to just get a break and recharge the batteries and you know, spend a bit of time doing things that we wouldn't normally get to do. You know, if it meant, I know with the lockdown we couldn't do a whole lot really, but, you know, just taking a break from football, not picking up the bag of a Tuesday and a Friday or Sunday morning and going training, just taking that break and spending a bit of time with family and friends. It was good, you know, and then it gave us a bit of appetite to go back. When the call came to go back, then lads were really hungry to go back at it. And I suppose Malachy coming in from Portlaoise, it was all a new setup for us and getting to know him, and he's brought a real freshness in, and Nigel Pearson is our strength condition down from Portlaoise as well, and he's brought a real freshness to the squad, and lads are really enjoying it.
And, you know, Malachy, again, who's a serial winner, both as a player and a manager. He would have played against Rhode in the Leinster Football Championship and managed against you just a few years ago too. What's he brought in? Because, you know, you've brought in external managers in recent times. You had Jack Cooney there over the last couple of years working alongside Pascal. But what's Malachy brought to the table in his first year in charge of you?
I suppose not really different than anyone else, I suppose, but he's just brought a freshness, a new voice has been good for us, just freshened the whole thing up. Our training is very enjoyable. It's all football, loads of drills, loads of just, you're not going training going, oh, we're going to get run tonight or what's in store. It's very enjoyable. As I said, loads of football, plenty of challenge games. Like, I suppose with the joy of playing the knockout, it's a game every 2 weeks, and you've games and games, loads of games coming. So that's been really good as well. It's keeping the bodies fresh, not doing a whole lot of work, but just keeping us ticking over and keeping us fresh.
And in terms of the format this year, it kept me very busy a couple of Sundays ago on the final day of the group stages, because I was trying to work out the scoring difference between Cappenkerr, Tullamore and Clara as the games were going by. We saw maybe a swing in scores in Group 1 and was wondering who was going to finish up in second place. It led to a pretty exciting format. I mean, with the exception of Rhode and Ferbane, who already had the wins in the bank, and you knew unless something crazy happened, you were going to qualify. There was a proper little scrap going on in both groups in the final round to see who was going to go through because of the shorter format this year.
Yeah, I think it's a great format, well, to be honest, the 2 groups of 4, because every game means something. You know, you're going out and your back's to the wall. Even the first game, if you don't win the first game, you're under pressure straight away. And I suppose if you don't win 2 games, like, are you really good enough to progress? I don't probably think you are. I know Tullamore have got through lucky enough and score difference, but at least it gives it gives lads a chance to go and enjoy themselves then. If they want to go on holidays or they want to do something differently with themselves, they know to put everything in. It has to be good enough over a group stage. So it can give lads a chance to go away and enjoy themselves then. I think it's a great way. For years there, we were playing everyone, and games were kind of didn't mean anything. You were just playing them for the sake of playing them and getting them out of the way, you know. Whereas this, you know, every game meant something. It was coming every 2 weeks, and it was great, and it was keeping lads fresh and keeping lads thinking, which is what lads want really at the end of the day. Plenty of games and plenty of football.
We can see an Offaly jersey behind you. I'm not sure if it's from Meath last year, or is that a slightly older one?
That was my captain jersey from 2018.
Right.
When we lost Clare in the qualifiers. I kept them. I've my road one underneath. I have the 2 of them together. That's my captain jersey when they captain Road to championship in 17. So I just a nice little thing to have, I suppose, 2 captain jerseys.
Yeah, and look, you're going to have to wait a couple of weeks longer to go back into the Offaly panel for the best possible reason. Yourselves and the Tullamore players who won't be going back in because you're preparing now for a county final. But what is your feeling about coming back as things stand? Middle of October, you've got a couple of league games to finish out before getting into the championship. How are you feeling about going back in with the county in a few weeks' time?
Yeah, obviously looking forward to it. Well, priority is a county final day now in 2 weeks' time, and I won't look beyond that. But yeah, really looking forward to it. We've 2 league games left to play. We tip on Derry, and then we've a game against Carlow and Tullamore. So yeah, I think we're back training. Offaly back training tomorrow night, anyways, as far as I know. So I think he's cut the panel within 2 weeks as well, because I think the new format, there's only 32 players involved, so he's to get rid of a couple of lads. So yeah, no, I am looking forward to Will, but I suppose my main focus now is on Tullamore Sunday week, and I won't look beyond that. But yeah, really looking forward to getting back into the league and giving the championship a good go against Carlow.
Yeah, and look, I suppose it's a different year, isn't it? I mean, we don't have to look at qualifiers this year. Any talk about a secondary competition is pushed back at least into 2021. You're probably going to face this and go, look, every game is one that you can possibly win in the championship and see how far you can go when it does get underway.
Absolutely. I mean, just take it as it comes, you know, because you never know. Like, as I said, you don't know what's around the corner, what's next week going to bring, or the week after, if we're going to go into another lockdown or what's going to happen. So I think just take each game as it comes, take each training session as it comes, and let's give it a rattle. You know, you've nothing to lose. We've nothing to lose. You've 2 games. They'll prepare us well for the Carlow game. And like, as knockout football comes, you know yourself, anything can happen on the day, and let's see what happens. And
I'd imagine when it comes to the league, it's just a case of picking up a draw or a win to be 100% assured you're back into Division 3 for next year. The trick is not to lose both of those games and end up in a relegation situation on the last day.
Yeah, and like I feel like going back to the league, we would have underperformed against Down and Tullamore before the lockdown that came, and we were right up in the mix for promotion, and we kind of didn't get a chance to rectify that result that day because the lockdown that came. But yeah, we'd be definitely looking to win those 2 games 100%. We've Tipperary away, who haven't been going reasonably well either before the lockdown. So like, and then we've Derry at home. So we'd fancy our chances against both of those teams, and to finish up as high up the table as possible and bring it into next year then as well, you know.
Yeah, and I'd imagine a lot of people have debated about the window and the preparation time that's there. John Moloney said a few weeks ago that, look, 2020 is what it is. He would love to have a few more weeks to get ready for coming back in, but he sees the 2 league games as a good way to be in a good tactical place before the championship comes around. I would imagine everyone is still pretty fit, given that they've been in action in the club championships, you know, across the board really for the last month or so anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, of course, and lads have been getting plenty of football across all grades, from junior right up to senior. They've been getting loads of football. Like, even if you look at the weekend there, like, the county players have all stood out. Like, Johnny Moloney was exceptional yesterday by all accounts. Keane Johnson the same. Keane Farrell Saturday evening. You know, so lads are coming into form at the right time, which is a good thing for Offaly football.
Well, we're going to hear from Johnny Moloney in a few moments' time. Anton, thanks a million for joining us on the pod.
Yeah, take care, Will. Thanks very much, and best of luck with it going forward.
Anton Sullivan there in conversation with us here on the Brave and Faithful podcast. Time for us to look at the second semi-final, which was remarkably dramatic here at Bournemouth O'Connor Park, because we had the first ever penalty shootout in the Tullamore Court Hotel Offaly Senior Football Championship. That clip of the Rory McNamee point was with thanks to Offaly GA TV. I can give you a look now at the penalties that were taken by Tullamore, again with thanks to Offaly GA TV. And when you watch this, you'll see the remarkable standard that took place just over my shoulder here on Sunday evening.
The wins, but here's Shane Dooley. Can he send the Tullamore men underway? He hits it and he buries it into the back of the net. Oh, beautifully dispatched there. Dispatched with a plumb there. Nicely stuck into the back of the net, so an advantage to the Tullamore men again. Here comes John. Oh, low and hard. Well put away by Johnny Moloney. Here comes Paul. And again, you wouldn't see penalty shooting like this in the Premier League.
I have to say, like,
here he comes. And he does it again.
yeah.
Here he comes. Oh yeah, again, brilliantly put away by Shane Dooley. My God, some said so. As Jack Cullinan, could he be the hero for Ferbane? Here he comes. And again, brilliantly dispatched again, and he dived the right way. And here he comes. Oh yeah, again it does. Kieran Egan for Tullamore. Can this be the defining moment? Oh, the coolest of cool penalties.
Brian Gavin, bloody hell. Premier League, maybe Germany at the World Cup kind of standard penalties there. We see Jack Cullinan making a whole lot of attempts to dive across and save the ball, but little chance because the penalties were so good. And that included guys who maybe I would have thought, we'll hear from Johnny Moloney in a few minutes about his own penalties, but Paul McConway slotted two away beautifully. You'd expect maybe Shane Dooley, who's played a bit of soccer and probably be a forward throughout his career and would have taken a few penalties from play. But Tullamore had a really high standard, and so did Ferbane, of penalty takers in that semi-final.
Yeah, and you'd actually wonder, did they practice these in training in the last few weeks or maybe in the weeks coming up? Because even I'd say in Clara, we forgot about it during the week. When you're so concentrating on the game in hand, you forget some of the things that might happen. And I'd say Tullamore and Ferbane definitely must have practiced penalties, because the penalty taken was exceptional out there. It's an unfortunate way to end, but I think with the years in it, there's no one going to give out too much. Like if Johnny Moloney, who was outstanding here yesterday, that missed his penalty, if Ferbane got the next one, Johnny Moloney, unfortunately for him, probably would be in an awful bad place, and that's how cruel sport is. And lucky enough for him, the Ferbane man, I think it was James Nally or Shane, I'm not sure.
Shane put over the bar, yeah.
Over the bar, and lucky enough, but it was a fascinating clash from the word go. We knew Tullamore would come. They always, when they get to a semi-final, a town team are very hard bet, and they had a good few changes from us. Even Michael Brazel wasn't playing. The start of Paul McConway, Kieran Egan was outstanding, Luke Egan, and these are young lads only out of minor, and I think people need to realise that the young lads are coming from under 17 last year. Usually they're coming from under 18, and it's a fair achievement from any under 17 to step up to a mark in senior, intermediate or junior, whatever it is. And both the two Egans, especially Luke Egan, us in the last round, they stood up to the plate. But it was a fascinating clash. It could have gone either way, and but I think overall in the balance of play, Tullamore deserved the victory.
I'd imagine, Joe, as well, Niall Stack would be saying, look, this is exactly like 2009 when they won the hurling. People had written them off. They were going into the last game of the group stages, got the result they needed, qualified, eked their way out through a few results and beat Kilcormac in that hurling final. Tullamore need no other motivation than this is a chance to go back within one Dowling Cup of Road now of 29, Tullamore of 27. This is a chance for Tullamore to win 28, when only 2 or 3 weeks ago I think very few people would have been tipping him to win the championship.
Yeah, and I'd say, and probably Brian will agree with me on this, I think when Niall Stack came in, he was looking at maybe blooding a few youngsters and building a team over the next couple of years and getting them used to senior football. Of course, you'd always have a hope at the start of the year you would reach the county final, but I would have think Tullamore's development has maybe even come as a surprise to the Tullamore public themselves. You could see in the early group stages, Shane Kelly not with the panel this year, Shane Dooley not featuring, Paul McConway not featuring, all in reserve, that Niall Stack seemed to have a clear blueprint that he was going with you, lads, thanks for your service, but you're not guaranteed starters anymore. conversely in that, it shows the importance of the experience too, because Shane Dooley and Paul McCommon have been massive, particularly Dooley, got the goal a couple of weeks ago when they really needed it against yourselves. And, Shane Dooley, if there had been 10 penalties, Shane Dooley probably wanted to hit the 10 of them and had scored them, because in front of goal, be it hurling or football, he's lethal, and the quality of the penalties, I could see, Sean Martin was probably hitting the ground as much as the ball in the goals because they couldn't get near them, and it would have been unfortunate for Johnny Moloney. Look, if he hit that penalty again, it was like kind of, Beckham in the World Cup years ago, the ground nearly moved beneath him because he nearly cleared the ball stopper, and that's, he just completely missed cue. But for the performance, listening and watching the other day, that John Maughan spoke waxing lyrical about Johnny Moloney, if he was to be on the losing side, there's an awful lot of baggage going into the following year with that hanging over your head. But you just kind of hope, I suppose, as a neutral, that you wouldn't see the county final decided that way. That I know the rules can't be changed, but while it was a huge novelty factor, it's not easy watching. You're kind of saying your whole year is decided on this. But just the last word of Tullamore, they had a fantastic under-17 team coming through there. They're starting to see shoots of it now, and I really think Tullamore are going to benefit from this massively, win, lose or draw, because it's given them youngsters a chance to play at the highest level so early in their careers, and it can only be good because the town of Tullamore will never die when it comes to football.
I think, Brian, when it comes to it, penalties are fantastic if you're a neutral and watching it like we were yesterday. If it's your own club, it's horrible.
Oh, it is. I was just thinking after our game ended, one of the chaps with us had the video going, and we started to look ahead in the car. We were definitely last to leave Dangan, but you'd be saying to yourself, if that was your own club, you'd be a bag of nerves. And who can you blame then? Can you blame the goalkeeper then, or the lad that missed it? And you're always looking for an excuse then when you're beaten, and that's the unfortunate part of penalties. And I suppose, Tullamore got the rub of the green yesterday. When it comes to penalty shootouts in GA of all sport, it is a rub of the green, but Tullamore definitely had their homework done. Just one player that I thought that would have made a huge difference and he transferred was Aidan Keenan. Aidan gone, I think, he'd play with Ballyfin.
Has been playing well with Ballyfin too.
And if he was there yesterday, I'd say that game, because what Aidan Keenan does is he's a workhorse, and he creates that little bit of space, and he's a ball winner for likes of Oisín Kelly, for Keane Johnson, Joe Maher, and that just Ferbane lacked that ball winner yesterday to drive at the Tullamore defence, and he was a huge loss for Ferbane.
The format is what the format is, Brian, but you'd have to feel for Ferbane a little bit in this, in that they surrendered the Dowling Cup having done very little wrong in their defence of it, and are knocked out without having been beaten. You got to count yesterday as a draw. That wasn't actually a defeat. Yeah,
you'd probably, when the history books will show, when people maybe in 60-year time will go through history books and see Tullamore won 9-8 in penalties, they'll be all asking their grandfathers and what happened.
Us in 60 years time.
Well, the way me and Joe are going, they won't be asking us anyway. We're not contributing much to any grandsons or anything, but they'll show Tullamore 9-8 in penalties or something like that, and it'll be bizarre, and it'll be asked maybe in quizzes through Offaly for in years to come and that. But it's going to be a fascinating final now in 2 weeks' time, and both teams won't fear each other, and they'll be cautious of each other.
And something, I suppose, the novelty factor, I suppose you're used to seeing it on television. I was watching actually what the crowd would do when they celebrated. They all made a beeline for Sean Martin to celebrate with him after letting in 8 goals. It was you didn't even know who to run to, who to celebrate with. It's just that natural reaction. And look, it is great for the neutral. I watched it this morning. There was a full-length clip with all the commentary. It wasn't edited at this stage for Offaly GATV. And it's great watching, but if you're after putting in work since February, and during the lockdown, you have to remember, particularly in football with the fitness levels they are, players have worked so hard. Everyone had a WhatsApp group, the 5k times going in every club. Now I wasn't sending to many of them in our club, but they are happening. But it's such a bad way for it to go out. And championships have to be played. We see the Tyrone final, was decided on it as well, and it's going to be here. I suppose everyone knows in advance, but I just think I don't feel that it'll go that way in the final. You never know, but. Again, it's a hard way to lose a game.
Okay. I suppose the final point on it, lads, when you go back to March and April and we sitting at home and we didn't know what to do, over the last few weekends, we've been really spoiled and awfully with the hurling championship and the football. And every week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're starting to think what's going on. And there's midweek games as well. There's underage. I was at under 13 games yesterday. The under 17 final is ready now in minor hurling. There's some fantastic games out there. And I was just thinking, what would we do without the GA the last few weeks? That's for certain. And I know we're giving out maybe about penalties, but I'd rather have it than have nothing.
Oh yeah, and it's probably a discussion we'll probably have, because the importance of mental health in general is huge, but what it's done for people, and even since the inception of the GATV here, I know people can't get to them, but I think it was Aoife Grehan from Ferbane had a photo up a couple of weeks ago, her grandparents watching it on a smart TV, they got to set it up, and like they're so emotional in it, and it's huge that you get to see the games now. Like everyone is scrambling to get on the 50 in their club to get in. Like I like Brian, I passed Brian yesterday after Drumcullen finished training. Our under 13s are in the A semi-final, and are in the final now, and not just bigging up my own club, but it means so much to their people. We stream a couple of games on our own Facebook page, but like for youngsters to get to a final after, it could be 30 or 40 years since we were in an A final at that grade, if we hadn't that hurling to look forward to, and hadn't the training, and hadn't the football games, as bad and all as COVID-19 has been, and I must give credit, and I know Brian's on the county board, but the way Offaly GA have handled the venues, there's been very little, if any, negative talk. I see our own club, our chairman, totally strict. You give your list, he's hand sanitizer, nearly pouring it on them going in the gate. It's like going into MASH years ago, it's just been doused in sanitizer now. Yeah. But the handling of the games, we spoke to Michael Dygden on it, like Offaly have been a very, very proud and forward county in what they've done.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from one of the Tullamore crew, the guys we're talking about, his penalty that wasn't scored as opposed to the penalty that he did score in the first round of 5. This is Johnny Moloney looking back on that epic penalty shootout yesterday. You were part of a piece of history, John, on Sunday with the eventual win after what I must say as a neutral watching it on Offaly GA TV was absolutely engrossing, because we got 7 penalties into the shootout. Didn't look like anyone was going to miss. Even Dooley's penalty where Cullinan got half a hand on it was pretty well struck. And what was it like actually taking part in the penalty shootout? Because Gaelic football, obviously, you never have to do this before.
Yeah, that's very true. It was very unusual, I suppose. I never even really played soccer growing up. Like, it was always either rugby or football. So when it came to the penalty shootout, it was complete unknown for me. Some of the lads like Dooley and Kieran Burns there, a young fella that plays with us, they're big into the soccer. Didn't faze them at all. But certainly was unbelievably unusual. I suppose it is an unusual way to finish a game. You'd have to feel for Ferbane, because ultimately at the end of the day, like it was the weight of a crossbar between both teams. At the end of the day, Sean Flynn very unlucky with his penalty just over the bar. I suppose you're never too far away from a clap in the back. You're just as far away from a kick up the ass, like, you know what I mean. So yeah, really unusual. But just glad, I suppose, that we came through anyway.
Had you put much practice in, Johnny, before it? Because we knew when the rules changed after COVID-19 that there was going to be decisions on the day for the games this season. Would you have done much practice in recent weeks of the penalties, or is it something that was thought about a whole lot?
I wouldn't say we did a lot of practice, but we did think about it. Obviously, it wasn't a feature for the group game, so up to until we got into the semi-final the week before the game, so last week, for preparation, one of the nights after training, we all whoever was willing to take a penalty, we all practiced basically after training to see who would take them. But even at that, then a lot of lads scored. We took one each, and everyone picked their spot, and they were the guys who, if they were going to be on the field, were going to put up their hand. Then after the game, when Steely kind of asked us, Steely, the manager, who's going to who wants to take a penalty? The flurry hands going up, but then some lads were like, I'll take one if such and such lad's not, if you're not comfortable or whatever. So it's still kind of a bit all over the place. Like, even Declan Hogan was actually down on the sheet to take a penalty, number 4, and Paul McConway thought he was number 4. So when Paul found out Deck was on it, he wasn't having that. Like, so just before the first penalty was taken, all had to be changed, and Paul was put in number 4. And I suppose good job he was, because he buried the two of them. So
I was very impressed with Paul McConway's penalties, particularly his second one, where he kind of took a Ronaldo-style stall just before he hit it, and then picked his spot and put it nice and high and over to one side. I wasn't expecting that from Paul McConway. I've known him probably since he was 20 years of age. He's always been pretty much a defender, and not the type of guy I'm expecting to be running up to the ball 13 metres out from goal.
No, he won't like to hear you say that, no, Will. He's fancies himself. He fancies himself as a baller, Paul does. He reckons he's big Everton fan. He was a big soccer player when he was young. He said he preferred it to football, but that obviously changed over time. But Jesus, Paul is unbelievable. Like, he showed real leadership skills there as well. People forget, like, that was his first game in 14 months, and he played 80 minutes. Like, incredible, really. Like, he played a challenge match last Saturday night or something like that, I think. and he played for 45 minutes, and that was basically his preparation going into that game. So Jesus, he did unbelievably well, and of course, been there to kick the two penalties was crucial.
And I guess having warriors like that around are very important, because we were chatting on the pod earlier about how much youth is coming through in your club currently and how good the underage teams have been over the last couple of years. But you need players like Paul, who has that bit of steel and bit of experience, to try and carry those young players into their senior career now.
Oh yeah, sure. Paul, obviously we touched on Paul, how influential he could be. But then there's kind of a younger group maybe behind Paul, like Declan Hogan now is really standing up, and Nigel Bracken, and they're even bringing on Aaron Levy. He's only 21, but he's really become a very important player for us. And it's important that our main players like that, they're driving on, as you said, the young lads, and encouraging them and bringing them on, and showing them, I suppose, the right way to approach it. And all the games in the Offaly Senior Football Championship, particularly last year or two, are very competitive, and you really need everyone firing. So you need to get the best out of your experienced guys, but equally you need your young guys to really be improving and playing up to their potential as well.
Tell me about
get any sort of result.
This adventure to the final, because some people are already comparing it to your hurling team in 2009, where at the end of the group stages, back is entirely up against the wall, have to get a result in the last group game, get to the knockout stages, pull off a couple of shocks, and then beat Kilcormac in a final, and they were able to lift the Robins Cup. There is a little bit of an air about that about your football team this year, because once you lost to Captain Kerr on weekend one, there was very little margin for error in the rest of that group, because you had two difficult games at the end. You got your victory against Clara and the points difference that were needed to qualify, and now you've overturned the county champions. It's quite a remarkable turnaround from a month ago, Johnny.
Yeah, I suppose look, that is true. I suppose a few things about that. First of all, I think everyone was shocked that Captain Kerr beat us, but Captain Kerr are a good team. I don't think so. Sometimes people it's such a shock. It's not really. Like, they've loads of players that had experience playing with Offaly, really good players, like Owen and his brother Bill, very impressed with him, and just to name two of them. As well, we introduced a lot of young players as well, so we were trying to find our way, and they were trying to find their way, and it was one of those games, and it was tight at the end, and we lost, but we'd done an awful lot of work. So even though we'd lost, the work we'd done still wasn't written off, if that makes any sense at all. Going out against Rhode, obviously, there's no point in lying. Our confidence had taken a bit of a hit against Captain Kerr, but we still actually were okay. We're okay for a long time against Rhode. And the send off against Aaron Levy really affected us. Now, to be honest, it never looked like we were going to beat Rhode, but it was a small bit of an improvement from the Captain Kerr game. Again, as I said, the young guys get more experience. It's kind of saying, just from my own experience when I was younger, it took me maybe 10 or 11 championship games, which could be 2 years, playing championship, to really kind of feel that I can express myself. Whereas we have a lot of lads there now, this county final is going to be their fourth game to start, in championship. So every single game they just improve an awful lot, and it really helps, when everyone's going well, it's much easier to produce a good performance. It's much easier for me to play well when the guys next to me are all doing their part as well.
Well, it's a huge benefit for those lads who are 18, 19 that are coming in, playing their first couple of years of championship, to now have a county final to look forward to. This is a huge experience maker for any young player, and to get it as early as some of the lads in your club is surely going to be a huge occasion for them.
Yeah, no, it will be, but I think they'll take it in their stride, because you said they have been quite successful, and a lot of them are like, they're great. There's no mind in them. They look after themselves. To play in terms of coaching, they just really coachable, these young fellas now. It's unbelievable. So some of them they just take in information. It's incredible. So as you say, the experience they're going to get is going to be fantastic, but it's important to build on it, because I suppose Tullamore history before, where we've won championships with young teams and maybe not quite pushed on how we would have liked. But that's for another day. We're in a big game now in a fortnight. We have a lot of young guys. We have hopefully they will approach it properly, but hopefully they can perform on the day, which I'm sure they will, because they're really, really great fellas, to be honest.
And there's a great historic rivalry between yourselves and Rhode. I know Rhode will say their biggest rivals will be Edenderry. You'll probably say your biggest rivals are Clara. But at the same time, because the 2 year up at the top of the tree, and I remember chatting to John Rouse a few years ago when it was a case of who was going to pull away from each other with Tullamore Rhode in the final. Rhode have added on a couple since and have gone 29-27 ahead. But this is a chance if Tullamore were to win the final on Sunday week, you get back within one Road at the top of the Roll of Honour again.
Yeah, look, I suppose for a lot of people in our club, it would be a big factor, you know, especially the guys, the older guys in the club, you know, that is a thing, an important thing for them. But in terms of us, I suppose, like, I've only one, you know, so I think, I don't know how many Alan McNamee has, he's 12 on his own, you know, so, like, you know, it depends how you look at it, really. But to be honest with you, I just really want to add to my one, you know. The Roll of Honour look after itself. It's just important to us as a Tullamore team. You know, we just put out performance against Road. Like, they're going to come in heavy favourites. They beat us by 9 points. It could have been a bit more now. Out in Gracefield only a few weeks ago. So we have a lot of young players, a bit of an unknown there. But hopefully we can put off a performance. And look, we'll do everything we can ultimately to get the win. All of us just want a championship nearly just for this team, I suppose, rather than look too much into the whole Roll of Honour thing. Like Rhode and Ferbane, they've been a credit how they've employed themselves the last few years, and deservedly they are on top of the Roll of Honour, whether we like it or not.
Well, chatting to Anton earlier, he was saying that he's massively enjoyed the championship this year because it's been a case of no early start, a break, and then coming back after the inter-county season. It's been pretty consistent every second week. You've had a group game, which has had huge importance on it because of the short race and the nature of things. We had such a dramatic final day with 3 teams in your group fighting it out for second place, and anyone could have ended up in the relegation spot as well as qualifying for a semi-final. And now you've had a semi-final and a final to come around very quickly too. Have you found a similar experience, Johnny, having 6-7 weeks of competitive football that's going to define a championship?
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. It's been perfect. The split season that they're proposing for the GA, it's a no-brainer, really. In terms of developing team dynamic and, you know, getting comfortable in how the team plays, you know, and ultimately then it improves the quality of what's going on. Club championships this year, everyone's saying it, you know, that's been the highest standard as ever, and sure, it's no coincidence because all the players are there training all together for a longer period of time. As you say, that's the whole thing of playing 2 games and going away for 3 or 4 months and playing again. Like, you can't really build on that. You actually see where some teams struggle, where they go too well in April, and then when it comes down to the business end, you know, they might be a bit flat or whatever. And, you know, it's just it's not a natural thing in terms of competition. You know, it's the way it's blocked together there now. It just makes perfect sense. We want to play games. You know, we don't want to be training months endlessly. Especially, like, obviously I played with Offaly the last few years, so I feel for a lot of the club players here, and then summer months where they're just, you know, turning up to training, but sometimes they don't even know why they're doing it. They just turn up because that's what they do every Wednesday and Friday night. You know what I mean? So, the less of that kind of aimless training where it's kind of pointless with no goal in sight, the better. So yeah, it's been brilliant.
Now, don't tell me you'll play anywhere for the team when I ask you this question. I'm going to ask you where you actually like playing, because I remember when you were coming through and you were playing a good bit of rugby at the time too, and kind of playing half back, and when a player who was going to break out the field was the position that seemed ideal for you. Then different managers have used you in different positions in the forwards, whether that be as an auxiliary, half forward, whether that be in around the square trying to break some ball. I give you the choice where you want to play right now. Where would you prefer to play in a team if you could?
My spot's centre back, if I'm honest now. That's where I normally play, but I've actually, if I lined out in goals, I think I've started on every line of the field for Offaly in the championship match. So maybe if I hold on long enough and Paddy Dunnican heads off to Dubai or someplace doing a bit of teaching, I might get in there. But centre back would be naturally my best position. That's where I would have never played forward till I was about maybe 23 or 4 years of age. In 2013, I was 22 going 23 in 2013. So that's when the experiment started in full forward. And then I suppose horses for courses, different managers have different ideas, and depending on who you're playing and that, sometimes it's a good idea, managers think, to maybe try me in the forwards. But if you ask John Motton now where my position is, he'd definitely say centre back. He wouldn't have me near the forwards. But different managers, different ideas. With Tullamore, we naturally produce an awful lot of backs. So a few years ago we were maybe short up front, so I got landed up there and did okay in a few games. So I've been up and around the forward line most of the time with Tullamore, but maybe in between centre back too.
Essentially, what you're saying here is, if you hadn't played as well breaking ball in the forward line for the team, you could have probably stayed in the half back line then.
Well, for Tullamore, yeah, I would have, yeah. Basically, yeah, just on the back, maybe 2 or 3 games in 2013, I'd probably be still playing in the backs with Tullamore. Yeah, there's no point in saying otherwise. I would be. Yeah, there'd be someone else up there doing my role there at the minute. But no, to be honest, I really enjoy the forwards. It's way different, you know. It's nice to play up there. I know it's enjoyable being able to get an opportunity to get a few scores and be involved in attacking plays. But similarly, I suppose it kind of it's difficult for me in that, you know, obviously a lot of my football centre back, and when I'm coming back from Offaly into Tullamore, you know, it's not as easy to adjust from playing centre back to full forward or that quickly. You know, that does take a few games. Sometimes people mightn't realise that, but you would be kind of the things you need for forward line important, have a good first touch and things like that. Not that you wouldn't have one at centre back, but you know, them small little balls coming in and quick hands and runners coming off you, and you're playing with your back to goal. Like when you're playing centre back, you know, then things happen way less often. You know, you're different kind of skill set. So yeah, it is a bit tricky, but look, I enjoy it. It's a nice opportunity for something different. You know, people like that bit of freshness. You know, so look, I don't mind at all, to be honest.
Well, John Mon was basically living in O'Connor Park at the weekend. He was in for all the
Yeah.
games, and he was commentating on, I think he did the 2 senior semi-finals, and he was in watching the Senior B semi-finals, which were played beforehand too. And one of the things he commented on while your game was on Sunday evening was that he was really happy that a lot of the county players stood up and played very well in the semi-finals they were playing at the weekend. He was saying it was exciting. The guys look like they're into a good level, given that you're going to be back out with the county team in around about 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, no, I probably agree with him. We've 2 great coaches there in Dermot Sheridan and Mark Fee. We're kind of pushing out a lot of really good maybe training programs to us over the lockdown, and nothing too taxing. Like, it was all scientific, you know. We weren't just running around for the sake of it, like, but really good stuff and tailored to different people what they needed. So you see the likes of maybe Aaron Levy for us, you know, he's really come on an awful lot over lockdown. You know, he's a young guy, but he's getting big and strong now. And I suppose even the game yesterday, Keane Johnson there, he was excellent. Like, he scored 6 points from play, and I was told he was carrying a leg going in as well. So for Ferbane, so like, just that was in our game, you know. He's obviously in with Offaly. He's one of the top players in Offaly, and he really produced the goods when it mattered. And for us on our side, you know, all our county boys, Braz came on. He wasn't fully fit coming in. He came on and did brilliantly. Nigel Bracken, Declan, Hogan and Levy, obviously, you know, they all produced big performances, and that's what I suppose made the game great as well. Like, it was a very competitive game, and yeah, the quality of what I've seen from other county boys it's been great. But there's also other lads and club players definitely putting up their hands. I'd say John's definitely thinking about them and having a look at them, who've been excellent in the club championship, you know. So it's been a good shop window in that sense, I'd say, for John Mon.
Can you enjoy playing a game like Sunday just gone by? Because when I got off the radio at 6, I went out and watched the stream, and I caught the tail end of the second half, caught extra time, caught the penalties. It's just so much ebbing and flowing. You know, one team would get a little bit of a lead, then get pegged back, and no one could really kind of decisively get ahead. Can you actually enjoy a game like that where there's great scores and it's incredibly competitive? Is it actually enjoyable to play in a game like that?
It's a funny one, yeah. When you're playing, it's unbelievable, really. To be honest, it's why you play. Like, I loved absolutely every second of it. Like, now obviously there's ebbs and flows. Like, you know, when we got ahead, Aaron Levy scores a point just to win it. Like, you know, and you're subconscious there. You're thinking, right, surely it's going to be over when he kicks this ball out. When it's not blown up, then you're like, oh my God, they're not going to go down, are they? We get kind of a good. And Nigel Bracken gets a good tackle on, slows, they win a free. You're like, all right, we'll surely get lads back now. Next thing Ocean tell you is a goal chance. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. So it's nearly went from the best feeling ever to the worst in literally 10 seconds. And so that was just a small snapshot of the game. So when it's really enjoyable, there's moments of, I suppose, absolute despair, I suppose, while you're playing. But yeah, really, you can't beat the boys of it. Like, you feel for Ferbane, obviously, but you know, if they had to come out the right side of it, you know, they'd be saying the same thing. But you know, it's it's brilliant, really. To be honest, it's the best thing ever. Yeah, it's how everyone plays, I think.
Yeah, it's tough on Ferbane. I mean, to their credit, they wore their crown very well. They go out of this championship without having lost a game inside normal time or even inside extra time. They were really good in the group stages, worked their way through, got to a semi-final, played an epic, lost in the lottery of penalties. You can argue about the
Yeah,
skill or the luck that's there.
Yeah, I suppose ultimately, I suppose even if you got it all in after the game, and you said like everyone would prefer a replay, you know. But look, that's the way it goes. Like at the end of the day, once it goes to penalties, it's anyone's. Like, you know, it's look at it, as you say, it is look at a draw. It's as simple as that. Like, yeah, it's probably really important who wins the toss to go first. You know, you know, because I think there's some statistics done that whoever goes first is statistically a better chance of winning the penalty shootout. So, look, yeah, won the toss, I suppose, maybe.
Keep that in mind in case it's needed in the final against Rhode in a couple of weeks' time. What I did find unusual too, and look, everyone's getting used to this, and we've had changes with phases, and some people have been allowed in, and then there was nobody in, and then there was 100 people in. One thing I did feel a bit unusual was when the penalty shootout finished, you didn't quite get the normal roar and maybe people running to the front of the stand. You had a few people, but you kind of miss out that moment ever so slightly. Could you imagine what the crowd would have been like during that penalty shootout and when the penalties finished if there'd been a couple of thousand people there?
Yeah, that's probably, I actually didn't think of that. I'd say it would have been 10 times more nerve-wracking, if I'm honest. Yeah, we actually, maybe we got off light. Yeah, absolutely. It would have been way worse. And the celebrations, or, you know, the sense of relief would have been even heightened even more. God, yeah, I couldn't think of the pressure of transfer when I was going up to take my second one. That was enough for me without having a couple of thousand there looking at me miss.
Will it feel weird kind of parading around ahead of the county final on Sunday week and you look up into a stand that can host thousands of people and there'll be 100 people or so probably socially distanced in the stand? It'll be very different to maybe some of the Rhode and Tullamore battles of old where you would have had a huge crowd in there. Yeah,
no, it definitely will. But it's funny, actually, once the ball's thrown in during game time, you actually forget about it in a sense. It's funny. That's what I've noticed anyway. Now, obviously, county final have a much bigger crowd than a semi or any group game, but you kind of forget, like, maybe when there's a dead ball or something, you know, and you're kind of more time and that you might notice it a bit more. But in actual gameplay, like, you know, you've 1,000 things going through your head, decisions that have to be made. You don't notice it quite as much, but in terms of, I found taking frees or even then penalties, you would notice the crowd a bit. And as you say, if there was more people there, it could either, you know, put you going one way or the other in terms of scoring or missing, depending on how you're taking it.
Well, one thing that's absolutely assured, we were down chatting to Jim Kelly, the groundsman, earlier this evening when we were in O'Connor Park, and he just does a remarkable job. He actually has a sheet of paper which he sets every blade that he uses on the pitch. I've never seen a groundsman. We'll definitely do a podcast with him at some point just to talk us through the entire system. Yeah. But he told us that he cuts it between 4:30 and 7 o'clock. It gets a double cut every evening now currently. He sprays the grass to make sure it doesn't grow too much. He gets out between 10:30 and 11 every morning to do it. And I've never seen someone being so protective of the pitch. I'm glad that we were wearing light runners when we walked in to make sure we didn't do anything with the cut he had just done. But it's going to be an absolute carpet for the final when it comes around. I know all your focus is on getting ready to lead a team into a final, but Offaly is going to come back around. What's your feeling about the inter-county season coming back next month?
Yeah, I don't know. It's look, I'm looking forward to it, I suppose, but it's going to be a bit challenging. We actually had a call there just earlier from John, a Zoom meeting there, just on the logistics of how things are going to work in terms of COVID officers being at training, signing in and out, showers, different things, how it's all going to work. So it's going to be interesting. To be honest with you, I love going training with Offaly. We actually, as a team, we all get on great with one another. There's great morale there. So in that way, you would have missed that kind of buzz with the group. So you'd be looking forward to getting back. I suppose it's going to be a bit hectic in that. I don't know what wouldn't really. I don't know, but we're playing 2 league games and straight into the championship. You know, it feels a bit rushed, I think. And then the 2 league games, like you know, they mean an awful lot, especially for us. We really need to, as a team, improve our league standing, you know, so they mean an awful lot. But then the preparations of every county is going to be different depending on where they are in their own championships. And things like that. So the kind of, I suppose, the playing field isn't the same for everyone, and that's a bit frustrating. And then week on week is going to be tough enough as well. Being honest, like it is, we are only amateurs, and week on week, just going back into counties is like anyone I tell you, it's a serious step up from club in terms of fitness and the load required to actually play. Like, so to even get through that, like if we our 2 league games, then we've Carlow, and if we're lucky enough to beat them, even a game the following week, I think. So you could have just 4 games in a month there. I know you want to play every week, but when the loads increase like that, like, it'll be tough. So I suppose that's why you have a squad, I suppose, and that's what John will be interested in developing and looking at over the next few weeks.
Yeah, because the thing is, you can't really afford a slow start when you come back in, because
No.
those 2 games still have a lot on the line. You're playing Tipperary away from home first and then Derry. Say you were to not perform well away from home at Semple Stadium on that Saturday, you have to turn around 8 days later and play Derry in what could then be a relegation dogfight depending on results elsewhere. In all likelihood, to be assured of your own position and to make sure you're definitely in Division 3 for next year, you're going to need at least 1 result from the last 2, realistically.
Yeah, that's it. And I suppose that's what I'm talking about. It's just, I actually don't know how the Derry and Tipperary championships are faring. I think they're actually similar to us. So in that sense, it should be fairly equal, like, in terms of preparation time. So I suppose ultimately what's most important for a lot of county teams is the amount of times contact coaches have with the team in terms of setting up tactically and things like that, being able to review opposition. It's not just fitness or anything like that, it's actually hands-on work in terms of how games are approached tactically and that. And if a team has the upper hand on you there, like it is a huge difference. Like at the end of the day, we're all going in there with good mindsets and that, like, so it's the small things that make a big difference. And if they have more time to prepare, not saying they do, I'm not sure, but it does affect you. Like, see the Wexford hurlers there, there's no point in saying anything else. Like, I know a lot of them play football or whatever, but they're going to have a big advantage, like they do, because they've had so much time now. Once second they got back training to hit the ground running with most of their players. Not all of them. I'm not sure how they work, but just an example, I suppose.
Yeah, no, look, it is an advantage, and as you say, some of them will be playing football, but still, they'll be knocked out of the football championship. More of them will be gone. It's not going to be like there is for some of the players in Offaly who play dual. I'm thinking, say, the Ferbane players, you might think they're getting an extra bit of rest, but no, most of them are back out with Belmont next week in the hurling.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily going to be the case for all of the players in Wexford. And even if you are a hurler who's continuing to play on football, you probably had a break for a week or 2 because your hurling team would have been out unless you got to the county final. So they definitely have an advantage, I think, over potentially if, say, they were to play Laois, who are going to have their football championship running right up into November.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are. But look, you won't use it as an excuse either. It's just something, I suppose, that would could potentially. We're at the minute we were having a reasonable season. We had a poor result against Down. We were disappointed with our performance there. But if that game had to go a bit better, you'd be saying we were in great shape. So, like, we want to end it well. Like, so, you'd hate for it to kind of fizzle out, I suppose, when you had a lot of good momentum and good work done. Like, you'd hate to see it undone because, you didn't have the personnel you needed in time to prepare properly.
Well, look, you got 2 weeks to get ready for a county final. I'm sure you'd be indulged to an orange juice after that, no matter how the result goes in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Probably straight back into county training on the Monday or Tuesday night. Johnny, thanks a million for taking time to have a chat with us. And congratulations again on getting back into the county final. And good luck against Rhode on Sunday week.
Thanks, Will, and best luck with the podcast. No, it's great to see you boys doing it.